Welcome to Fox Valley Today. I'm your host, Ann Vickery. Thank you for joining us. My guest today is John Purcell, longtime county board member, also longtime finance chairman for the county board, right?
That's correct.
Out of, let's see, when did you take over in finance? Was that '04?
Oh, golly, yeah, '04, '06, something, maybe it was '06, something like that.
I remember that was a battle.
That was, yeah. And then
one of our better battles.
It was, and then, I had a two-year hiatus when we had another battle.
Yeah, 57 votes, but boy, I'll tell you what, that was...
We can still fight.
Yeah, different times people will bring that up to me and they'll say, "Oh, you guys are." I said, "No, that was one of the best battles we ever fought," because I said he thinks he won, but I got all the chairmanship. So.
You absolutely did. That's right, Ann.
So anyway, it's just a matter of how you look at it. Well, thanks, John, for coming over. I know the budget is a couple of months old. But money never goes out of style, believe me.
It doesn't.
It's the one thing that doesn't go out of style. How did you, I meant to get you on in November and in December, but everything kind of got kind of crazy. And then, but tell me, how did you feel about this budget year?
It was a challenge. All years are challenges, and I think each year gets a little more challenging because the state makes it tougher on us. They've taken some more money. They taxed our transportation sales tax and public safety sales tax 2%, so there's a couple $100,000 right there that we just lose right off the top.
And it's really not a tax; it's more of an administrative fee they charge, isn't it?
It is. It's 2%. They call it administrative fee, but it's essentially a tax on a tax. They're taking money from us, and so that was one shot to the bow right there, and then the health insurance is always a challenge, but we were able to get through it. We did a few things that. There was some real debates on. We didn't increase the property tax levy by the CPI. We took the new construction. We wanted to try to give people a break. We went to some funds and in fact, when you're on the board, we developed some funds to put money aside for some of the property tax appeals,
right.
The power plant, and fortunately we never had to pay out for those. The agreements we never had to pay out, so we had some money put away that came from the general fund. We used some of that money to help plug the general fund. And in the end, there were some discussions and battles, but everyone came together at the end. It really worked out.
Yeah.
It was a challenge, but it worked out fine.
But you did have one dissenting vote on that, or no? You had
I think three.
You had three. That's
I think
right.
We did.
You had Audra, and Liz, and Tony Giles, right?
Correct. I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, and Audra and Liz, I kind of get them because, they're very liberal in their thinking. They're very supportive of the health department. Right? I mean, I know that there was the big issue with the health department, right?
Yes.
At least I understand that.
Absolutely.
Now, Tony Giles, for a guy who never shows up for a meeting to vote no, is that like a safety valve for a guy like that?
No, Tony, he'll vote no, he'll vote yes, but he's on the Board of Health, and I'm sure that they had some discussions over there. I don't know that for a fact.
Does he show up for those meetings?
I don't know. I don't know.
I just have to say, John, let's face it. When you're elected, and this is my editorial today, when you're elected by 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 people, and then you never show up for a meeting, I mean, it's like getting hired for a job and you never show up and you still get paid. That doesn't make sense to me.
We've had other elected officials do that in the past.
Well, yeah, that has happened, and I think they set a bad example. But I think
some of them retired though.
Yeah, well, yeah, they retired. Yeah, maybe just in the nick of time. Strange things were happening, John. Strange things were happening. So anyway, you ended up with a balanced budget.
We actually had a little bit of a surplus. We had about I think it was about $275,000 surplus because Ann, as you might, I'm trying to remember if you're on the board at the time or not, but we passed a few years ago, we passed a 6-month general fund policy. So we always want to have a 6-month fund balance for the general fund, and in order to achieve that, because we were dipping into it a little bit, in order to achieve that, we need a little bit of surplus. So actually we had about a $275,000 surplus budget.
Now, one of the things that constantly was always in the way of trying to balance the budget was health insurance.
That is still a challenge.
The increasing cost of IMRF, because it does continue to increase.
It does.
In order to keep it funded. It is a very well-funded retirement program. So as long as you're funding a little bit all the time, it's not going to catch you in the end. But so how did you manage the health insurance costs this year?
We did a couple things. We made some just real minor tweaks to the plans. We have a couple plans that the bulk of the people, bulk of the staff use. One is it's HMO, and then the other is a high deductible. And the high deductible, we decrease the network. There are a couple hospitals in Chicago, for example, University of Chicago, Children's Lurie Hospital, and I think Northwestern, all in Chicago, that we said those can't be part of the major network. So we were able to reduce that a little bit, and then we made some minor tweaks to the HMO. And listen, we still had an insurance increase. I think they're about, I'm trying to remember, 6-7%. They still went up, but originally they were looking at 25-30%.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was on the board, it was nothing to get an average of a 8 to 12% increase year after year after year.
Correct. Yeah, and
it's
it's been a
no way
challenge.
to keep it up.
No, and the problem, and we have is, at least this I view as a problem, is we're so tied to the union contracts that we cannot make any changes without having to negotiate it. And I talked to, for example, somebody who works for the sheriff's office in Kane County, and they don't have to negotiate. If their board feels there's some changes that need to be made, they make them, and it's not something that has to be negotiated. Unfortunately, we've tied ourselves to that, and it's a real challenge. And you know, the rest of the real working world doesn't have that. If their employer says we need to make these changes because we can't afford it,
right,
they make the changes. We're not in that position, so unfortunately, it falls on the taxpayers.
Yeah, well, and you know, and unfortunately, that is what continues to give the public unions the bad name, that there's just never any give on some of that. And I heard that.
You know, I'm in the public at my work every day, and I hear it all the time.
Yeah, that's tough. Now let's a little bit more about the budget. What kind of raises did you give this year, or didn't you?
No, there were definitely the average raise probably 2.5 to 3%. You know, there's some slightly lower. I'm sure there are a few that were you know, a little bit higher, but we just had a federal arbitrator award 3% increases to the FOP, and so it's kind of hard to say to the non-union employees, well, you're not going to get 3% when the FOP is getting 3%. And
let's see, you have some elected officials that are up this year. Who's running? Is it Debbie or Jill, or who is it?
Yeah, the clerk Debbie, the county clerk Debbie, the treasurer Jill Furco, and the sheriff Dwight Barry.
And what kind of raises did you promote for them?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Okay, so that's not come up.
My guess, if I had to guess, and I've had no discussions. This is the first discussion I've had about this. My guess is it would probably be similar to what the staff is getting, just a percentage increase.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's one of those things where you can take a look around at other counties, look at the amount of staff that people are handling, and I think that's your fair way, really, and that's how we had always done it in the past.
We've done that in the past. One thing we've learned from the arbitrator award for the union contracts, doesn't necessarily pertain to the elected officials, but you might want to look at it that way. That's one way you could look at it. The unions were awarded 3% through a federal arbitrator. I mean, maybe that's what you look at. It's just something similar to that.
Yeah, but again, your IMRF just keeps going up.
That's a challenge, absolutely. And I agree with the comment you made earlier. We have a fairly well-funded. We're not like Chicago, Cook County, the state. Ours is well-funded, but the problem, in my opinion, is it becomes a sustainability issue.
Right.
Is it something that we can sustain in the long term? Because it does take a little bit bigger piece of the pie all the time.
All the time, yeah, to continue to connect that to a very viable way of repaying all that. Hey, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, something that was in the headlines that I had heard on the radio. I listen to the radio here. Mitchell,
which station do you listen to?
Well, that'd be WSPY 107.1.
That's a great station.
Yes, it is. Mitchell Road seemed to be, I had heard a clip of Greg Wittek, who was the Little Rock fire chief, on the fact that this was a huge safety factor on whether or not this could make a 30-second difference. Now, first of all, I want to say, Mitchell Road is not a county road. That's correct. So why would they be coming to the county to get you guys on board for this? What is it they want? They're looking for some funding from the county. I honestly, I'm not in the committee, so I don't know how much they're looking for, but they're looking for funding from the county. That's a township. One side of it's township, the other side's municipal, and they want to make the connection to make a drag strip through a rural subdivision, and they've come to the county looking for funding, and I think the majority of the county board is just not in favor of funding that. Well, I mean, there's two ways of funding it, obviously. There's one, giving them the money, or there's lending them the money. Has there been any discussion of perhaps lending them the money?
I'm not aware of any. I'm really not in. Again, I'm not in the committee. I wasn't there for the detailed discussion, but every time it comes forward to the board, I know the discussion we have is we're just the majority. I know there's some in favor of it, but the majority of the board just says we're not looking to fund that. Whether it's a loan or anything, we're just not looking to fund it.
Just not looking to fund it at all.
We don't think it's necessary. We think it's a safety issue. I personally think it's a safety issue, running hundreds and hundreds of cars a day through a rural subdivision.
Well, now you have to define that, because people can look at a safety issue as a safety issue to make it more safe. You're saying it would make it less safe.
I think it would, absolutely. The subdivision, Schaefer Wood North, was put in probably 15, 20 years ago.
At least.
Yeah, 1 acre lots, no sidewalks. There's probably 50 lots in the whole subdivision, unincorporated. And the thinking at the time was, sure, that would connect to other unincorporated subdivisions. Not that it would connect to Lakewood South, which probably has 3,000 homes. There's probably 4 homes per acre. That Mitchell Road it's a major entrance in and out of that subdivision. So if you connected that, you would have hundreds of cars a day going through a rural subdivision to connect to whether it's Schaefer Road or eventually El Domain Road. And I just think it'd be a safety issue. And the thing that's lost in this, in my opinion, is Schaefer Wood already connects to Lakewood. Lakewood already connects to Schaefer Road. There are already 4 exits from that subdivision onto other roads. So it's not as if there's no exits. It's not as if those people moving to Schaefer Wood North don't realize, hey, the fire station's a half-mile away. They might have to make another turn. They know that. That's my opinion. You know, obviously some disagree, but I just think they're wrong.
Yeah, well, this was an issue that was brought up at least 6 years ago.
It's been ongoing for several years.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem to, you know, well, did anybody talk about how much this might really cost by the time they build that bridge? And
I'm sure that was discussed at Highway Committee. In fact, the Highway Committee Tuesday night, my understanding, again, I'm not in the committee, my understanding Tuesday night there were probably 10 or 15 residents there, and almost everyone spoke against it. And it died at the committee. So I don't think the board's going to be doing anything at this point.
Okay, so that's interesting. But was my understanding you had the township commissioner, you had the mayor, you had the fire chief. Who else? Do you know who else was there in support of it?
I think that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the road commissioner.
You know, and I mean the county was never. I mean, helped build that bridge at River Road. That was a very important factor. What was that? Something like that was like a $4 million cost to build that bridge.
I don't recall the final, but it was a loan.
Yeah, it was.
Paying that
it was
back.
a loan.
Yeah, and again, that was to repair a bridge,
right?
Not to put in a bridge.
To put in a new bridge.
The old bridge to nowhere. You know, is that like a Ted Stevens thing?
Right. Yeah, Alaska, and you know, our little township in Seward Township, we lent Manuka, the village of Manuka, that had like 18,000 residents. We've got like 2,000. We lent them the money to repair Holt Road because they did not have the money to do it.
To do repairs.
Well, yeah, because the road was the road. It was a safety issue because the road was so bad. It was a danger to the residents.
Right, but not to add a new bridge.
No.
To repair existing.
No, yeah.
And the county's done that. We've done that with Yorkville. We've done that with others where we've loaned money and they're paid back. But that's to maintain something that's in just poor shape.
Right.
Or in the case of the bridge on River Road, the state deemed that you couldn't use it. It was unusable. Was not safe.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about, we're talking about residents and this and that, let me ask you, what committees are you on? I
chair the Finance Committee.
Right.
I'm on, we merged the public safety and the judicial. I call it the super committee. I don't remember what it's called.
The super committee.
I call it.
Yeah, so there's some people who like, and that organization would be like to call super. There's no doubt about that.
So I'm on
capes,
that.
do they wear their capes?
I don't have one.
Oh.
I don't know about the others.
Well, they would start with an S anyway. All right.
I'm on the admin committee, HRA. I'm on animal control. I feel like there's one other.
Are you on planning, building, and zoning?
I am not.
Even though you're not on the committee, I was going to ask you, how are the building permits in county? I mean, you get a report every month.
Yeah, well, I don't know the numbers. I know they're up. I know they're up last year. I couldn't tell you the exact number. I know they're up. But, it's still far away from the 100 you saw.
Now that's another one of those responsibilities that your new administrator, Scott
Keppel, yes.
has to oversee. Does he have any background in that?
I don't believe he has any planning background, no. He works with the staff. Obviously, he doesn't do the work directly himself, but he works with the Brian Holdeman, who's the inspector, and then Matt Osselmeyer is the I don't know what his official title is.
Well,
the
he's
planner.
the senior planner,
And anyway, he works with the two of them.
Yeah, that's an organization there that went from about 7 or 8 people down to there's still like 3.
2 and a part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's what I feel as the county we're very responsible. When the building just collapsed almost 10 years ago, we scaled that back. We said we don't need to burden the taxpayers with this other expense. And is it tight right now at times? Yes, but for example, for inspections, we have an intergovernmental agreement with Yorkville. So if Brian's out, then Yorkville can pick it up, and then vice versa. So that works out well. I think that's the way government should work.
Now, animal control, which was always for many, many years a controversial.
It has its moments.
Yeah.
Had one the other day.
Yeah, really.
Oh, yeah.
How is it going over there?
Hey, it's going fine. I mean, the operations are, there's always some challenges, but financially, the animal control fund is very solvent. But we have some people, lobbying us to, support some different statutes that want to restrict the sales of animals, and I'm not in favor of that. But
that the county would get involved in restricting the sale
to support a state statute that would restrict the sales, the types of animals or the sources of animals that puppy mills. Well, that's what they're talking about, puppy mills, but there's nothing in the bill that says it. It just says you have to buy animals from an animal shelter that's deemed by the IRS to be non-for-profit, or you have to buy it from a government-controlled, federal, state, or local government-controlled facility. So really what they're doing is they're trying to restrict business. It has nothing to do with puppy mills. It's just a way of, in my opinion, supporting the non-for-profits and padding their own pockets.
Well, that's an interesting concept. That it also restricts people who might be really very, very legitimate in raising, exceptional border collies, German shepherds, breeds that they understand and know, and popular breeds of dogs, golden retrievers, things like that.
It would put restrictions on those folks as well.
Yeah, and I don't think that would be right either. Now, if they want to call out puppy mills and deem that, I think that would be something different. But
well, if they had some facts to say, any puppy mill or whatever that had this or this violation, but they come and there's no data. It's just all emotions. But that's what goes on. And they came a couple weeks ago to our animal control meeting, and of course I told my opinion. I thought it was a bad idea.
Are you still meeting at animal control, or are you?
No, we meet at the county.
Why don't you meet at the? I mean, the only way to really get a feel for what's going on up there is to be there.
We've just found most meetings it's easier to meet at the animal control or the county office building for you got to record the tapes, and it just is easier for staff to record tapes there.
Yeah, well.
That gets back to that Open Meetings Act stuff. That sometimes I understand the need for that. I really do, but sometimes it makes things impractical.
Right. Okay. Well, we got to take a little bit of break, Jen, because we just get to yapping, and the next thing you know, we're
I got to get dinner here and a drink.
It'll be Miller time. Okay, we'll be right back in just a minute with John Purcell from the Kendall County Board.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Your son wants to get a cat,
I'll really take care of it.
but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals 25.
Good job!
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back to Fox Valley. Today I'm here with one of my favorite guests, John Purcell from the Kendall County Board. John and I go back a long time, good times and bad times. We've still always remained friends. What year did you go on the board, John?
December of 2000.
December 2000.
So 17 years.
Yeah. Wow. You get the. I mean, you are probably more years than anybody there.
On the board,
Yeah.
I know HD's been on and off for. He started, I think, in the 90s, but then he's been on and off.
Yeah, but he was kicked on. He was put on, thrown off, put on, thrown off. Yeah, he's kind of like the comeback kid.
Yes, yeah. It's like Abe Lincoln.
Right. Well, he's there's not a lot of similarities there, really. That's going to be interesting. HD is always good for a couple of news clips here. We're going to miss that.
Yeah, I think the last meeting, HD and I are gonna have a boxing match.
Yep, he wanted to take you outside.
That's right.
There were people, I wished I'd have been there because I'd have thrown some money down. I'd have thrown it in the middle of the road.
We laugh about that now.
Yeah, you got it. Well, that's one of the great things about being on the board. If you can get over your own little personal sensitivities, be willing to duke it out, fight it out, and then go out and have a good time afterwards. That's really what it's all about.
You're right, and I know you've been there before. There's times I left that meeting and I just was madder in blazes, and I said, what the heck am I doing this for? Maybe a day or two later, maybe a week, depending on this year, you calm down and say, well, I got to fight the next battle.
Yep, yeah, you just move on from there. Now, we were talking earlier about Scott Keppel being named the administrator. And I guess you guys went ahead and named Latrice Caldwell the deputy administrator.
Yes, well, actually, Scott Keppel did that. That was
Okay.
part of his responsibility, but he named her the deputy administrator. And as you know, Latrice's been with the county, I think, probably 10 years now.
Oh, yeah.
She's excellent.
I'll tell you what, there's one of those gals who is just as even-keeled as they go and has that terrific background in finance. She's like the right-hand woman there.
Oh, she is, absolutely. She knows that budget as well as anyone.
Yeah.
She really does.
Now, so what kind of duties? Did she get a raise?
She did. She is, I think she had 108,000 right now.
Is she good for her?
Yeah, no, she does an excellent job.
Uh-huh.
So she'll help, obviously when the administrator is out, then she will be the acting administrator. So any of the department heads that would report to administrator, like for example, the facilities management director, anyone in zoning, when the administrator's out, they report to her. She's also going to help with animal control.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken on some of the work comp responsibilities as far as communicating with the insurance when there's work comp issues. So there's a lot of additional responsibilities. Besides, she still does the budget though too.
Yeah.
We work real closely at budget
Right.
time. I mean, I talk to her probably more than I talk to my wife during budget time, quite frankly.
Well, maybe that's good for everybody. I don't know.
My poor wife.
Yeah. I kind of lost my train of thought there. But the thing about Latrice is she works in that budget every day. It's kind of like her own personal checkbook. She's always watching it.
She absolutely watches it very carefully. She knows it. She works closely with the treasurer's office, just to understand, the different revenue streams, where they're coming in, why they're coming in, when they do.
Right, and how close you are. Now, during the transition from Wilkins to Keppel and through all of that, and the fact that you let go, your human resource person was eliminated for, I don't know, whatever reason. That's my words. You don't have to comment on that. And a lot of that responsibility moved over to the treasurer's office.
Yes, they took on a big portion of it.
What did they take on?
They're taking on the health insurance now, where before the health insurance was up in the admin office. and now the health insurance, the enrollees, enrolling people, making sure their benefits are proper, their deductions are proper. That's all gone to the treasurer's office. Bob Jones in the treasurer's office is doing the bulk of that. He's doing an excellent job, actually. Bob's sharp. He's real good.
But basically that is getting people enrolled.
Right.
Making sure that the correct deductions are made, making sure that the benefits programs that are presented a couple times a year so people are constantly brought up to speed.
Then he attends our admin meetings every month and gives us updates and enrollees and then where the expenses are, just monitors the budget, any issues that come up. For example, if there's a benefit that, for example, we talked about, we had to tweak the benefits slightly. So there was one where one of the employees had I don't want to get into a lot of details, but one of the family members needed some care in one of the hospitals that was going to be reduced from the new plan, and he was able to help work with the insurance company and the insurance agent to say, hey, we've started this care already under the old plan. We need to get a smooth transition, and he was able to help work through that.
Right. Well, talking about insurance also brings me to one of the organizations that I work very closely with, and I know now that you were given my position on that board of the Illinois County Risk Management Team.
Yes.
How's everything going with that?
Everything's going well. We had some discussion on whether we should renew with the organization or not, and then the majority of the board said yes, we should renew with the organization. They provide a tremendous amount of benefits, training. They're financially solvent. And
I really don't think, unless people are, and that meeting that you have once a month after you have your ICCU meeting is a closed meeting. It's not that people couldn't come in if they wanted to, but oftentimes things that are discussed in there are of rather personal nature as far as benefits and maybe lawsuits or things that are going on. So you can't really pass that through to just anybody who wants to step in. But I don't think anybody on the board, unless you've been on that committee as a director, has any idea of the broad spectrum of responsibilities that they do cover for the county.
Yeah, that's fair, and it's like any new board, it took me a couple of years, and I'm still learning. I've been on there probably 4 years now, I think, and I'm still learning. But it's immense responsibility, and the group has I think it's $120 million in assets. So it's not chump change that we're ultimately responsible for. We've got a great team that Greg Peterson and his team that they do with the IPMG. They do a great job. But
Cliff Kosoff,
yes.
that legal team.
Absolutely.
They're on it all the time.
But there's things they bring to us, and we have some different discussion points. And the nice thing is we bring the perspective from a member, an end user, and say, well, did you consider this? Did you consider that? And they say it's good thought. So it's a good organization. And again, I'm proud to say it's financially sound.
Well, it was a good organization. The county works like a huge business with. What do you got employees now? You got 350?
Yeah, it's 330, 350 somewhere.
Right, and you're always kind of bouncing back and forth. And what was your budget number this year?
General fund is about $28.5 million.
Right.
And of course, you have all the other funds. That's depending on the road projects. It could be 60, 70. I think it was probably close to 70 million this year with all the projects going on.
Yeah, that's still a huge amount of money to balance and to manage. So, well, listen, John, thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to go on over to 107.1 if you want to listen. We're going to kind of maybe cover some of these same issues, but maybe we'll even talk about some broader things. Thanks, John, for coming over.
Thank you. Talking a bit.
Yeah, and keep me in the loop. You never know. You need somebody to help you do battle, I'll be right there with you.
All right.
All right. Thanks very much for joining Fox Valley today. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful weekend.
Coming up on Daytime, Oprah 2020. Could the media maven be our next president?
She could surprise you. I think that she does know politics. I think she does know policy. And I think